Hello everyone, this is Nacatl 1029 and this is going to be my first ever deck profile, and today I'm bringing to you the commander I've been playing most recently, Exuberant Explorer. So this is actually a landfall deck that looks to utilize Loot's ability as a secondary way to gain advantage after I take a lot of game actions ramping and playing a lot of spells and a little bit of creatures. So there are actually a lot of creatures in this deck, some artifacts, enchantments to help speed things up and protect your board. But for the most part, this is a pretty straightforward landfall build that looks to utilize Loot's ability to gain extra advantage on your opponent's turns with things like Seedborn Muse and other effects. So without a doubt, let's get into it. So first things first with this deck, we're gonna go over the lands. I'm playing 39 lands. 26 of them are gonna be basic forests. So as far as the utility lands and the non-basic forest, we're playing Dryad Arbor, the best land in the deck because you can go find it with any creature tutor spell, of which I'm only playing 2. Nothing beats 1/1 land creature that you get to go find turn 1, and just playing it as a body that fulfills the niche of land is great. And I'm also playing Beseiju, who endures, as another piece of removal in a land if need be. I like utilizing that channel ability to get rid of any artifact, enchantment, or problematic lands that my opponent has. And more often than not, this thing's gonna be channeled for just that 1 green mana. Castle Garenbrig is here just to leverage that extra mana for the purpose of creatures, save on 1 extra land, and just power through things like that. And then we are playing Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, and Fabled Passage as my fetch lands. This is a lower power deck that I like to bring to a bunch of casual tables, so I'm not looking to go super overboard with the land and fetch package. Just sort of leverage what I have and keep the game at a place that the average player can respect and play through without any issues. The deck seeks to move faster than your opponents, but not to end the game before turn 8 or 9 and things of that nature. Then I'm also playing Ponder's Enclave and War Room, just as 2 lands that can draw cards if need be. The abilities are really easy to trigger. In War Room, I pay a life because loot is only 1 color. And Ponder's Enclave, I just have to control a creature with power 3 or greater, and being able to draw a card from either of these lands just for the low price of 3 mana and tapping it, it really matters, especially when I have nothing else to do and I'm looking to refill my hand with all of the resources. I'm also playing Temple of the False God just to make a little bit of extra mana, Ghost Quarter to get rid of some problematic lands, but I also don't want to be just playing Strip Mine and remove my opponent's whole boards and win the game that way. So this is a very fair deck, or at least as fair as Landfall is supposed to be. Then Emergent Zone, I love this card just because I do end up with a lot of mana in this deck, and I'll still have spells to cast after a loot activation on my opponent's turns, and being able to pay 1, tap it, sack it, and have flash is a game changer, especially in low color decks where you can afford to miss out on those pips. And of course the good old Reliquary Tower, just so I don't keep discarding, just to keep me in the game, and so I don't have to discard all my cards. And then of course 26 basic forests of varying arts, mostly the Theros Beyond Death Pokemon forest, some Zendikar forest, and some Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. But that is it for the lands. I'm playing 30. This here is 38, and there is 1 MDFC, so I'm on 39 lands total in this build. But next to the artifacts, which sort of all fill niche roles, I'm only playing the 2 mana rocks, but for the most part, they're here for land payoff. So I'm playing Zeranorb, good old 0 mana, sack a land, gain 2 life. Staff of Titania, buffs my creatures my creature for however many forests I control, and whenever that creature attacks, I make a 1/1 green forest dryad. So it gives me more dryad arbors, sort of the animus, and nothing like going to find a basic land on attack, especially in a deck that ramps like this. And good old Horn of Greed. 3 mana whenever a player plays a land, that player draws a card. Really, really good in this deck, especially since you're going to play so many more lands than your opponents over the course of a full turn cycle. I have drawn 12 cards off of this Horn of Greed throughout one turn cycle before, and it has been absolutely amazing for me, and I would never consider taking it out personally. And then for the mana rocks, Soul Ring and the Great Henge. Sometimes the Great Henge is just 2 green, but really the Great Henge is here just for the purposes of extra card draw. The counters don't matter too much, but making a big thing already a little bit bigger, because there are some decent bodies in the deck, is always good. And Soul Ring just to help you accelerate your mana a little bit more for the purposes of playing more spells sooner. And then as far as other ramp, we have a Utopia Sprawl and a Wild Growth. They enchant a land, make it tap for an extra mana, and they're here to help facilitate your turn 2 loops. And then we have, of course, the Group's Uprising, secondary draw engine, but it's really there to give all the other creatures trample. And then Tribute to the World Tree, very good because it triggers on each creature, not just non-token creatures. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Then I also play Zendikar's Royal. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 green elemental creature token. Very, very good. This deck seeks to win via token generation and big payoffs like Triumph of the Horde, Crater of Behemoth, and of course Finale of Devastation as well. And then I have Asceticism. So 3 and 2 green. Creatures you control can't be the targets of spells or abilities your opponents control. For 1 and a green, regenerate target creature. It is primarily here just for the purposes of giving all my creatures hexproof, but that regeneration has mattered. It can save your life, especially in a deck where you make as much land and mana as this one. There have been times I've just had 10 mana sitting there, and someone's board wiped, and I get to save 5 creatures. So it's really, really good for situations like that as well. But that's it for the enchantments and the artifacts. Now we're on to the sorceries. Green Sun Zenith. Go find Dryad Arbor. That's basically what it's here for. And then whatever other niche creature I may need at the time. But it is always Dryad Arbor first. It is honestly my favorite play in the deck. Nature's Claim. Really good low mana artifact and enchantment removal. And the 4 life never matters. Nature's Lore, Rampant Growth, and 3 visits to go find some more lands. Those are awesome, and it's just good to have. Then I'm playing Return to Nature, just for the modality, to get rid of more artifacts, enchantments, or to exile problematic cards from a graveyard, which more often than not is worth going for, especially because you have a ton of mana open, and sometimes your opponent's trying to cheat out something super cheeky, and you gotta say no. Then we're also playing Heroic Intervention, just for more board protection. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible to the end of turn. For 1 and 1 green, cannot beat that rate. And as for the sorceries, we have Awaken the Woods, X and 2 green. Create X 1/1 green forest dryad land creature tokens. It's there to make 10 Dryad Arbors, because sometimes when you've found all 39 lands in your deck, you just want to make 10 more to get you over that hump. And Finale of the Devastation, X and 2 green as well. Search your library and or graveyard for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less. Put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. If X is 10 or more, creatures you control get +X and gain haste until end of turn. Really, really good. Just for the purposes of finding Craterhoof. Little last minute buff to all of my creatures. And, you know, worst case scenario, it's just been a tutor. Just a regular one to go find something I need at this point in time. And then cultivate and Kodama's Reach. 2 colorless and a green. Search for 2 basics. Put 1 on the battlefield and another in the hand. And then Roiling Regrowth and Harrow are here sort of as secondary versions of Cultivate and Kodama's Reach. They also will get 2 lands, but both of them come in tapped, but both require the sacrifice of a land first. Roiling Regrowth puts them in tapped, Harrow untapped, but 3 mana instant speed land ramp, can't beat it. Especially in a deck that has the potential to play lands from your graveyard like this one. And then, of course, we were playing good old Beast Within. Destroy target permanent. Its controller puts a 3/3 green beast creature token onto the battlefield. You know, it's there because it's flexible. It's there because it's good. And it's really all green has. So that's why it's here. And then Bala get a recovery. So this is the MDFC. For 2 and a green, I can return target card from my graveyard to my hand at sorcery speed. It is a sorcery Eternal Witness, and the backside is a land that enters in tapped. It's just a green tap land. And next I have Triumph of the Hordes. My personal favorite way to end games. Here, 2 green and 2 colorless. Until end of turn, creature you control get +1/+1 and gain trample and infect. It is so good, and games gotta end, so why not end them sooner? It also requires a bit of a board state to be invested in, so people can see it coming, so when they lose, they're not too mad at it. And then on to the creatures. There are actually a lot of creatures in this deck for the purposes of being able to leverage loot activations. Loot himself is not the main focal point of the deck, however. He is, you know, the lands matter synergies take precedence over loot himself, but being able to use him to leverage extra advantage on your opponent's turns, cheat on a couple mana costs, but just play faster than your opponents and get rewarded in that regard is really handy. And the extra land drop that he gives you for turn is really good as well. But as far as creatures, I'm going to start off with Sylvan Safekeeper. 1 green, sacrifice land, target creature you control gains shroud till end of turn. Great for protection, even better for sacrifice lands, putting him in the graveyard, giving you more land drops on later turns, especially when you're getting 5-6 land drops a turn. Just having a way to throw those lands in the graveyard outside of just Zernorb and some of the ramp spells is really good. And the fact that it gives them shroud is even better. Then we have Llanowar, Elvish Mystic, Findhorn, and Birds as our 1 mana dorks. That gives us 6 turn 1 plays, or 7 actually, to help you get to a turn 2 loot. So turn 2 loot is very consistent in this deck, and it's great because starting turn 3 and being able to play land 4 and 5, and then just do what you will with the rest of your ramp, and then spend the rest of the game leveraging that loot activation is really good. And then I'm also playing Destiny Spinner. So 1 and a green enchantment creature. It is a human and it's a 2/3. Creatures and enchantment spells you control can't be countered. It's there for that line of text specifically because all of these creatures matter. The enchantments matter. And it does actually have a little bit of land synergy. So it does have another ability for 3 colorless and 1 green. You can activate it, and target land you control becomes an XX elemental creature with trample and haste till end of turn, where X is the number of enchantments you control. It's still a land. So potentially it can make 8 land tokens because including Destiny Spinner, there are 7 enchantments in the deck. And then we play Lotus Cobra to get you extra mana for each land you play. So you can cast more spells, take more actions, and hold up those lands for that loot activation. Sakura Tribe Elder, 1 and a green for 1/1 that you can sacrifice. Throw a basic land onto the battlefield tapped. And then go to Ramanap Excavator, which gives you the ability to play lands from your graveyard for 3 mana. It's Crucible of Worlds on a creature, and to be honest, Crucible of Worlds is not a card that I'm super high on. Specifically in these green land decks, I think most Crucible of World effects are better in the color versus just the one colorless option. So Crucible of Worlds is not a card I'm playing. I'm playing 3 ways to play lands from the graveyard, the Ramanap, and there's going to be 2 more on some other creatures. And then, of course, I'm playing Eternal Witness, 2 green and a colorless. When Eternal Witness enters the battlefield, you may return target card from a graveyard to your hand. That matters so much, especially going through the resources you do in this deck. Sometimes you want an extra copy of your ramp spell. Sometimes you want you didn't kill everybody with the Triumph of the Horde, so you want to try again on a later date, especially if people are playing fog effects. It's there to, help you survive the crackback. Or actually, your tokens will help you survive the crackback, and you can try again with your Triumph of the Hordes, with your Finale of Devastation and things like that. Topiary for 1 and 2 green for a 4/4 plant dinosaur with vigilance. When it ETBs, it goes and finds you a land. However, it can attack or block unless you control 7 or more lands, which has literally never come up in the history of me playing this deck ever. Getting to 7 lands in this deck is really easy, and generally it's done right around turn 4 or so, if things are going smoothly. And then the best token generator in the entire deck, good old Scoot Swarm, 2 and a green for a 1/1 insect. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. If you control 6 or more lands, create a token that's a copy of Scoot Swarm instead. It is so good. Just with Finale of Devastation, with Finale, Triumph of the Hordes, the creatures like a Shia, where everything that enters is a forest. All non-tokens that enter are forests. It is really good. The best token generator in the whole deck, for sure, because it goes exponential instead of additive. And then Wayward Sword Tooth to give you another extra land drop. A 5/5 that lets you play an additional land on each of your turns. However, it can't attack or block unless you have the City's Blessing. And it is a very niche mechanic. So you get the City's Blessing by ascending, which happens if you control 10 or more permanents, and then you are blessed for the rest of the game. But it's a really good effect on a 3 mana 5/5 for sure. Then Tireless Provisioner and Tireless Tracker are here to help you make those artifacts while you're playing your land. So for 2 and a green each, they're both 3/2s. Tireless Tracker makes clues, and when you sacrifice a clue, you put a 1/1 counter on it. Tireless Provisioner makes a food or a treasure. Provisioner is definitely the better of the two, because treasure is the best of the 3 options you can make. But Tireless Tracker pulls its weight every time, and having clues, more card draw, especially for the price of 2 mana, which is super easy and super efficient in this deck, is great. And then it makes the body bigger as well, so it turns it into a better attacker with the staff, with the Sword of the Animus and things like that. Then I'm playing Augur of Autumn. It's there to help me look at the top card of my deck and play lands and creatures. Really good effect on a 2/3 for 2 green and 1. Then Azusa for 2 more land drops. And then a personal favorite card of mine that I love in just about every one of my land decks is Spring Bloom Druid. It is for 2 and a green, a 1/1 elf druid that has another sacrifice effect on it. So when it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a land. If you do, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. It is so good to have a 3rd copy of Harrow, of Roiling Regrowth in the deck, and it's so good. Just to sack a land, go get 2 more, trigger your landfall some more, and get a body as well, because you need them for the triumphs, for the finales, and for the Crater Hoof to win. You have Toski, 3 in the green, can't be countered, indestructible, 1/1 squirrel that has to attack each combative fable, but it's there to help get you that incremental card draw for when you do start attacking and your creatures can get in. So whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. Really, really good effect for sure. Then I play Oracle of Moldiah. Similar effect to the Augur of Autumn, where you may play an additional... I play with the top card of my library revealed versus just looking at it. I can play a land from the top as well, but this also lets me play an additional land per turn. And then another pet card of mine is this one here, Ohir Chasm, Deepest Growth. So for 3 and 2 green, you get a legendary god. It's a 6/5, but it has one of my favorite abilities of any green creature ever. So it has trample, and its ability is whenever Ohir Chasm deals combat damage to a player, reveal that many cards from the top of your library. You may put a creature card and or a land card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. That effect is so unbelievably nuts because you get any creature, you get any land just for the low price of hitting somebody. The only stipulation being how many cards you look at is tied directly to how much damage he does. But a great attacker with the Sword of the Animist, a great attacker with the Staff of Titania, and it's just a good card, and it's one of my personal favorites. So here it is. And then the best card in the deck, Seedborn Muse. 3 and 2 green for 2/4. Untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. This is Loot's best friend. It is your best friend because nothing is better than having a Seedborn Muse and being able to activate Loot on everybody's turn. You know, you get just that little bit further ahead turn after turn, and by the time one turn cycles come around, you're fully in the driver's seat and you are wheeling and dealing with the cards left in your hand. And it is so good, and helps you wrap up games pretty neatly. Then another just good landfall card. For 3 and 2 green, it is a Shia, Soul of the Wild, a legendary elemental. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, which is really good because it's never been small. And but the best part of the card is the second line of text. Non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. This card sends you to the moon with all your landfall triggers, all your token creation, and just with having more mana to play more things and activate Loot on your turn, on your opponent's turns. It's just so good. And then Spore Mound, 5 mana 3/3 that makes a 1/1 Saproling whenever land enters the battlefield. It's there to make bodies, and it does make a lot of them for sure. Then I'm playing Silverback Elder. So for 3 and 2 green, I get a 5/7/8 Shaman, which has a really good effect, being that whenever you cast a creature spell, you get to choose to destroy an artifact or enchantment. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, put a land straight onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, or gaining 4 life. The 4 life doesn't matter, but blowing up those artifacts, those enchantments, and going 5 cards deep to get more lands to help keep your turn going and giving you more and more advantage is so good. Especially when you can pair it with things like the land that you sack to be able to cast at instant speed, going 3-4 creatures deep with all that mana up, and looking at those cards, blowing up those artifacts, enchantments, and putting those lands in. It's just so good, and it gets so much value. And then I'm also playing Titania, Protector of Argoth. A way to it's a one-off way to get a land out of the graveyard and back onto the battlefield. but it actually has a really, really good effect. So for 3 and 2 green, it's a 5/3 legendary elemental. When she enters the battlefield, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield, which is really good. And whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a 5/3 green elemental creature token. So this card, with your Roiling Regrowth, with your Harrow, with your Zernorb, with your Sylvan Safekeeper, helps make you more and more bodies, and as well as the few fetch lands we're playing, just being able to generate just a little bit more power for essentially free is really, really good. Especially when the stat line is 5/3, you can't really beat it. And then Titania's best friend is actually other Titania. So this Titania is a 6 mana 6/6. This is Titania's Nature's Force for another legendary elemental. You may play Forest from your graveyard, and whenever a Forest enters the battlefield under your control, make a 5/3 green elemental. And this last line of text, which is really, really good, is whenever an elemental you control dies, you may mill 3 cards, which is going to help trigger your other Titania. It's going to throw lands into your graveyard for you to play later as well. And this being a landfall deck, you're never afraid of your stuff hitting the bin, especially because I am playing the one-off Shuffle Eldrazi just to reset if things go too deep or get a little bit too hairy. But it is just, a good card that has a good effect, especially in this deck for sure. And then as far to round off our creature lineup, I have Kodama of the East Tree. Every green deck's best friend. 6 mana 6/6 with reach. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. This card is so nuts. You play a land, it triggers Kodama to put another 0-drop artifact creature or another land from your hand onto the battlefield without burning another land drop for your turn. And that triggers if you play a fetch land and then you crack the fetch land, the land you get triggers Kodama another time. It is so unbelievably crazy the amount of turns you can have with this card. This card is it is the greatest setup for any of the game enders you could possibly have, just because it shoots you to the moon with value. Because being able to essentially play your entire hand out at half cost and twice the speed is ridiculous. It's like, man, when you resolve a Kodama and it sticks there and you get a full turn with it, you jump 4 or 5 turns ahead. This card is bananas in this deck, and it's bananas in every deck, to be honest. It is one hell of a creature. And then on to just more token generation, more landfall triggers. Rampaging Baloth, 6 mana 6/6 with trample. When a land enters, you make a 4/4. It's there to make bodies, and it being a 6/6 with trample, being able to get over things necessarily without too much help is really, really good. And every landfall card's best friend, Ancient Green Warden. So 6 mana 5/7 with reach. You may play lands from your graveyard. Most important line of text on the card. And then another very, very important but not quite as good line of text. If a land entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. It is crazy. Double landfall triggers. It doubles up your Kodama triggers if you played a land to trigger Kodama. It basically doubles all your token generation. It replaces your Primal Vigors, your Parallel Lives, your doubling seasons in this deck. It is so unbelievably good. And then Avenger of Zendikar, 7 mana 5/5. When it ETBs, you make a 0/1 plant creature for each land you control. And it being 7 mana, I've never resolved an Avenger of Zendikar and made less than 10 tokens. It's just never happened. Especially if I get it off of loot. It's even better. I get free tokens without having to pay the 7 mana to cast the guy. And, I don't have to worry about a counter spell. I don't have to worry about, Yeah, not having to worry about a counterspell is super super big, and then just having the extra 1 mana if you flipped into him on your turn, but more importantly, getting him on an opponent's turn and making those saprolings, getting to untap and then play 3, 4, 5 lands a turn, making those 0/1s, 5/6s on top of whatever ridiculous board state you have is really really good. And then another 7 mana card that I personally play is Regal Force. It's another 7 mana 5/5 elemental. But when it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each green creature you control. So all the tokens in this deck are green. And you make a lot of bodies. And flipping into this Regal Force is going to get you any. In my testing, I found it's gotten me anywhere from 12 to 30 cards. And being able to draw that many cards, especially once if you get it in the late game and you just piece the game together from there and just assemble a crazy amalgamation of mana and creatures, is ridiculous. It's good early game, it's good late game, it's good in the deck because sometimes you get it on your opponent's turn for the low price of 6 mana and a loot activation. And being able to draw into cards on your opponent's turn, always better than drawing on yours, in my personal opinion. And then the ace of the deck, Craterhoof Behemoth. We all know it, we all love it. 8 mana 5/5 with haste. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control get trample and +X/+X till end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. Stacks with your tokens. It just puts games away. It's the best overrun effect in Magic, still after all these years. It is phenomenal. And then the last card in the deck is Ulamog the Infinite Gyre. You're never casting it. Please never cast it. It's here so you don't lose to mill. It's here so you don't deck yourself out. Going too fast. It's an 11 mana 10/10. When you cast it, destroy target permanent. I know, super great, but please never ever cast this. Just keep discarding it for hand size. Keep milling it to reset your deck, please. Yeah, 10/10 with Indestructible, Annihilator 4, and that most important ability, the all-encompassing, the reason it's in the deck. When Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre, is put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles their graveyard into their library. It's the whole reason it's here, folks. It is a good card for that reason only. The only reason it sees any play in this deck is so that I can, hopefully rebuild after a turn gone wrong. A board wipe, being able to discard an Ulamog, especially if it's something like a Cyclonic Rift and it happens at the end of your turn, so you pick up all your stuff. You never fear throwing stuff away when you have the Ulamog. Just being able to shuffle things back and reuse them later on in the game is really really good, especially when you go through your deck as quickly and as easily as you do with a landfall strategy. You make your land drop so the lands don't go back. You can afford to cast all the things again. You can flip your loot into more crazy stuff all